Kia ora koutou katoa. My name is Jay, and I'm the manager for leadership at the Sustainable Business Council. And we partner with Catapult to run the Sustainability Leadership Program. And the purpose of today is to give you a bit of a taster of the program, hence why it's a taster session. We'll give you an overview of what it involves, and you have the chance to ask any questions that you might have and an opportunity to try before you buy. So if Andrea and I look quite small when we're presenting, you have the option of changing your view. I think if you click on view at the top of your screen and select side by side, you can resize the slides and us if you'd like a slightly bigger version of us on your screen. But before I talk about the program, I thought we would just talk a little bit about the agenda. If we can go back one slide, Andrea, to talk about that. Fantastic. That's great. So I'm going to kick off, obviously. I already have. We're going to hear an overview of the program from my friend Andrea, who is the director of Catapult. We'll hear directly from Sam, who is the New Zealand Post Senior Environmental Specialist and an alumni of the program. And we thought it might be a nice opportunity for you to try out one of the tools from the program as well. So we're going to get you into breakout rooms to do so. And we'll take questions throughout and questions at the end. So feel free to use the chat function for any queries you have. And on that note, a little bit about Zoom. I know many of you are probably very familiar with it by now because it's the new normal. But if you could have your video on and just make sure you're muted unless you're talking. If you take a moment also to rename yourself, there's a little few buttons at the top of your video there where you can do that, putting your name and your organization, put questions in chat. And if you've got any technical issues, you can put those in chat as well. So I think we've covered all of that off. Thanks, Andrea. I think we'll start talking a little bit about why the Sustainability Leadership Program. Very good question to start with. I thought I might start by talking a little bit about the Sustainable Business Council. I know some of you are already familiar with this because you're members, but for those of you who aren't, we're a membership organisation. We've got about 110 members now, and I think that represents about 160,000 full-time jobs, which is quite a good chunk of the jobs in New Zealand. And all of our businesses are committed to creating a future where business people and nature thrive. And we're also committed to businesses being at the forefront of environmental and social sustainability. And one of the ways that we do that is by building capability, which is where our Sustainability Leadership Program fits in. And I thought I'd begin just by touching briefly on what sustainability means to us at SBC, and for the sake of the leadership program as well, because it's an often used but not always defined term. We define it as encompassing not only environmental sustainability, such as reducing your business's carbon footprint, but also social sustainability, for instance, ensuring a business takes care of its community. And we also define it as economic sustainability and the long-term viability of sustainable business. So this means, thankfully, whether you work in people and culture and you're responsible for community initiatives, or you work in procurement and you're responsible for ensuring your suppliers are ethical, the Sustainability Leadership Program can help you. I thought I'd offer the opportunity today to put in the chat why you're here today, what's brought you to this session, or what interests you about this program. If you'd like to take a couple of minutes to do that, we're going to circle back to that a little bit later on. And one of the reasons I like working, and one of the reasons I'm here today, one of the reasons I enjoy being part of SBC, is all the businesses that we get to work alongside who've really become alive to the opportunity of sustainability. And we know that businesses who have sustainability at their core are more successful in the long term. So SLP can help you respond to this opportunity because it gives you the tools and the confidence and the network to do so. And a lot of sustainability challenges are hugely complex, and they require lots of different skills like adaptiveness and innovation and resilience. And it also requires a network of people facing similar challenges to tap into. And SLP, thankfully, is the one-stop shop for all of that. Just moving on to the next slide now to touch briefly on whether or not the program is for you. Who is it for? Great question as well. And one thing I've learned from working at the Sustainable Business Council is that sustainability is everyone's business. And whether you're a sustainability manager or perhaps you're head of strategy and responsible for embedding sustainability across your strategic purpose, you've come to the right place with this program. It's for any leader with an accountability for sustainable outcomes in a business. And to touch briefly on my own experience with the program, I actually took the program myself when I first joined SBC about 2 years ago. And I found it really transformative, and I'm not just saying that because now I manage it, I really did. I wasn't from a sustainability background, and it definitely gave me the tools for better understanding the complexity of sustainability challenges that my business faces, and also tools around influencing better and being able to communicate sustainability more clearly to get buy-in. And I clearly remember one of the discussions we had, which was around a tool or a way of thinking called the dangerous framework. That might not be its official term, but that's how I remember it. And I think the analogy that Andrea from Catapult gave us is that life is a bit like a rugby game. And you have two choices. You can be on the sidelines or you can be one of the players. And the people on the sidelines, the fans, they sit and they watch, and maybe they talk about the people kicking the ball and give them advice, shouting from the sidelines. Whereas the player is the one that's in control. They're the one actually kicking the ball, who's leading out, leading the charge. And I really recognize that the world needs more players, not people sitting on the sideline. So I chose to be a player through the Sustainability Leadership Program. And in my professional life, I help others to lead out on sustainability. And that's such a joy to be able to lead out on that work myself. And then in my personal life, I'm a big climate activist as well. So SLP gave me lots of tools for both. So I suppose to close, I'd say that the world needs more players, and that SLP gives you the tools to be able to play in the game and lead out on sustainability. We'll just briefly have a look at some of the organisations that's already taken part. So SBC also sends people on this program, which is a real endorsement of the program, and a number of large organisations have taken part. And I've really noticed the more people an organisation sends, the more impact the program has. So that's something to consider too. So I think that's me. I want to hand over to you, Andrea, to talk a little bit about outlining the program and what are some of the benefits in the format.
Kia ora tātou, ko mōkau kārangi te maunga, ko te whanganui atara te moana, no tūranga nui a kia ahau, ko Andrea Thompson toko ingoa. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Well, a very good morning to everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Jay and SBC. Catapult's been a member of SBC for many years and collaborated on the creation of the Sustainability Leadership Program since 2017. It's wonderful to read all in the chat the reasons why you've come to this, and I see a broad range from coming for your own interest, some people quite new to this field and wanting to get the tools and the connections for that, through to supporting a whole organization or looking at whether this program might be viable for some of your people. So really wide range. Welcome everyone. And so I've been asked to talk about the benefits of the program and the format of the program. And so a little bit about me. My interest in this whole field goes back to when I studied law, and I did a master's paper in environmental law. And then I went from law to management consulting, learning and development, and then co-founded Catapult back in 1998. And so we do a lot of leadership development work across the country and also facilitate strategy, including sustainability strategy development. And so this program for me really brings together dual passions of sustainability and leadership, because one of the things we know is sustainability challenges are really complex and they take leadership to bring them to life. So what are the benefits? Well, one of the main reasons people come to the program is that they're feeling perhaps wondering if they've got the answers that they need, and perhaps lacking in confidence because it is such a complex territory. The stakes are high, there's multiple stakeholders, and you can't get results just through applying authority. And so confidence is one of the key benefits people get from the program. Here's a typical quote from Sarah Lee from Trevelyan. So I'll give you a moment to have a read of that. The confidence and tools allowing for a systematic approach to these complex challenges. The second main benefit people point to is the connections. It can feel like a bit of a lonely business working on sustainability. Some people say they feel like the lone voice. And so in the program, we form you into small groups based on a common sustainability challenge, often based around the Sustainable Development Goal areas. And in those groups, which we call leader labs, you work deeply together in those small groups between workshop sessions. And those people who come from diverse disciplines, imagine a CEO with a CFO and a head of procurement and an operations person, It's like having your own board of advisors around you as you shape a strategy and look at influencing strategies for your issue. And as Jay says, sustainability is everyone's issue. Kirk Hope from Business New Zealand, the CEO, says that he really recommends the program for people at very different, diverse functions within an organisation and to look beyond sustainability managers. The next main benefit is the practical tools that help you take something that feels like a ball of string and to really make sense of it so that you come out with a strategy for action and actually take action during the program. Here's a quote from Jennifer Evans from Mondelez. SLP really helped me identify what should be prioritised and in what order. Then it gave me the tools to engage and influence others. So we say the program is doing real work. It's not like one of those things where you go off and you learn some theory and then you go back to your day job. You actually do your day job through the program. One person said to me, I did a year's work in the last session, which was all about developing a sustainability strategy. I have the strategy, now it's about actually executing it. So the last key benefit, and this is the most important one really, the whole point of SLP to SBC and Catapult is to actually create a thriving Aotearoa New Zealand. And people through the program are able to advance their sustainability initiatives. And so here's a quote from Roger Robson-Williams with Plant and Food Research. He was able to get through his organisation a carbon emission reduction strategy resulting in a 66% drop in emissions over and above COVID impacts. And it took a fraction of the time. He thought it might take 18 months to 2 years, and it took 3 months. So that's what really what the program's about, equipping people with the confidence, the practical tools, the connections to actually make a real difference. Are there any questions coming through at this point, Jay, when you have a look through the chat?
Hi, Andrea. That was really great overview of the benefits. I'm sold, even though I've already done it. No questions so far, just some themes around why people are here, around the desire to collaborate and build partnerships. And some of you are bringing specific challenges that you have in mind for the program, which is excellent. Don't necessarily have to have completely defined that, because that can evolve over the course of the program as well. And a lot of you looking to embed sustainability across your business. So if you've got any questions, feel free to put them in chat and we'll touch on them after we've talked a little bit about the format. Back to you.
Thank you. Actually, that whole theme of collaboration is a key one. When we look at the capabilities required of sustainability leaders, they're not your normal leadership capabilities. So that they really are about systems thinking, about how to collaborate inside and outside the organisation, and really influencing beyond authority. And they are the skills that New Zealand surveys show Kiwis generally are poorest at. So it's not personal that you need them, but it's even more exacerbated by the nature of the complex challenges of sustainability. So that's really interesting. Okay, so what's the format? What does it all look like? There's a few broad pieces that I'll touch on. In the getting started piece, and this is one of the key features of the program, you work out a real challenge that you're really working on and bring it into the program. And for many people, that's quite clear because your organization's already got a raft of initiatives, and one in particular that's going to take involving other stakeholders. So we want something with some complexity that you can't just do through passing a rule in your organization. You're going to need to influence your value chain, supply chain, or other key decision makers in your organization. You get a sponsor, so you have organizational support for applying. You choose whether you do some of the optional extras, and we really recommend the 360-degree feedback for providing insight as to how others are seeing you. And then you apply by the 26th of February to get the early bird discount, or by 31 March, and there is an SBC member discount as well. And then pre-work starts. We start inducting you and to get ready for the program. And we form you into your lead lab groups of about 4, 5, 6 people, and you have your first session together to form the bonds of relationship and to talk about the nature of your challenges and how you might support each other throughout the program. Then the lead labs work between every workshop, and we give particular session designs, and you try out peer coaching tools that we provide you and particular formats that we give you. So it's a really structured, effective conversation, not just a chit chat. Then there's the workshops themselves, and they're spread out from April, May through to September. There's 4 2-hour Zooms. They are fortnightly apart. So you take a bite-sized chunk, discuss it in your lead lab, apply it in your work, then take another bite. Then there's a 2-day hui in Wellington, and then 3 2-hour Zooms. So it's a blended format. And just a note on that, I was one of the people who came reluctantly to Zoom last year. I've always worked from home, but the idea of trying to do leadership development by Zoom, I was like, I don't think this is even possible. And by the end of the year, I'm a complete convert. Last year's program was flipped to being completely online, and the evaluations are absolutely stunning. And in fact, they said it caused a richness because it was paced over time. People could take a bite, digest, apply, get feedback, and then add. So I'm now a convert to the blended format. A little note on delivery style, we practice what we call a flipped classroom. So you do the readings and watch really interesting videos before. So when you come into a workshop, you're fully ready to engage with the content and apply it to your context. So it's the opposite of a conference, which is a couple of people speaking to hundreds of people. We really flip that dynamic, and we use all the interactive tools that are possible. Some of you may have experienced working with whiteboards on Miro or Mural as a complement to Zoom. So we're using all those tools. And then the 2 forms of support, I've mentioned the lead labs, that's really is a key feature. That's where you get a lot of deep connections as well as connecting in the large group. And then Catapults is providing weekly support throughout the whole program. All right. So then what do the actual workshops cover? So the first 4 workshops are all about making sense. You enter in with the sense of a challenge. How do you see the broader world going on around it? In the first session, we distinguish sustainability through different models. And then we also look at leadership, common beliefs about leadership, some of which are really unhelpful. One of the common ones that we like to challenge is that as a leader, I have to have the answers. And we find a lot of people with accountability for sustainability feel like they have to do it all themselves. And that's really challenging because the issue is too complex to do it all yourself. You can't do it by just writing a report or doing some measurement. It's got to take working out who the stakeholders are around you and how do you move them together. Another session, I'll talk about leadership backbone because that might need explaining. Imagine clarifying your sense of your purpose and your values and your impact vision that can then give you guidance as you go through the tricky work of making progress on sustainability where people disagree and you're often taking something. That can be a source of strength and resilience. You get a personal behavioural styles profile and you're able to then look at what are your leadership strengths and development needs, but adapting your style a little fraction to work with people from different kinds of approaches. Session 4, we apply a method from Harvard Kennedy School. I was very fortunate to go there a few years ago, and they specialise in adaptive leadership. So what are the approaches for making progress on complex challenges as opposed to simple challenges? So they're the first 4 workshops. Then we come together in Wellington for a 2-day, and 2 key things I'll touch on here is collaborating. Many people say they know they need to collaborate, but don't have any kind of framework or model for approaching working with stakeholders outside their organisation or inside. So we give a framework, but also practical facilitation tools for how to bring people together. Another thing I'll touch on is influencing. We know with these issues, it's almost a pity sometimes you can't just say, here's the rules, go off and do it. Even if you're the CEO, you need to bring others along. So we apply the psychology and strategies and tactics of influencing, and you come out with a plan for how to create a momentum of influence, a movement of movements. So by the end of that, you end up with articulating a strategy and you know who to connect with and you've got the tools for how to engage and influence them. And then the last 3 workshops are really about embedding. How do you make sustainability everyone's business? How does it move from being part of one person's function to being integrated through how you approach strategy development in your organization? How do you embed it into your culture? And how do you tell stories that ignite action and keep momentum up? That's really the workshop format. Any questions that are coming through, Jay?
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, we've got a few great questions coming through. We've had a couple of people asking about whether the leadership program is about implementing more sustainability within your organization, or is it more about improving your leadership skills in jobs that focus on sustainability? Just wondering if you could clarify that.
Yeah, so it's both. The answer is yes and yes. So when we first began a number of years ago, it was more like a leadership program for people with sustainability accountability. And now it's a sustainability leadership program. So there's very much an emphasis on broad leadership skills, but only those that are relevant for progressing sustainability. The approach to developing a strategy for sustainability, for example, is quite different than an approach you might apply normally to organizational strategy.
Nice one. And we've got a couple of people saying they work in professional services as well. So they work with many organisations with different challenges, and how would bringing a sustainability challenge work for them? How does it work for consultants in general?
Yeah, excellent. It could be building their kete of skills to be able to help their clients. They could think of a client challenge, or they could think of something they're trying to make happen for or with a client, or within their own organisation either.
Yeah, I think I felt like I was in quite a similar position working for a membership body and coming on the program as well. The way that I approached it was I brought something around trying to meet the needs of people at broad, different ends of the sustainability experience spectrum. So people who were quite new to it and people who were a little bit further along in the journey. So that was how I approached it. It was how do I engage with all of these different audiences, which might be a nice way to look at it as a consultant. We've got a question around whether or not the program improves your leadership style in general, which I think you've touched on a little bit already. But
and our evaluations show it does. So people say it's useful for, again, the challenges of the world we're moving into are much more adaptive. They're much more complex. It takes working with and through others. So these skills are relevant whether you're trying to influence on a social, environmental, or economic issue, or another kind of leadership challenge.
Nice. Yeah, I remember some of the workshops on influencing and communicating were really helpful. And we'll take one more question at the moment, and then I will have a little chat with Sam. How many people do you usually accept per intake, Andrea?
To give you an indication, last year was 34, and this year we're planning on more than that. So we can take around maybe 50 people, I'm thinking. Yeah.
We do. Please finish.
The nature of how we can do large group and small group and customized lead lab, it doesn't restrict us for the size of group. So it's not a normal thing where people go, oh, there's only 12 to 15 people. You get the intimacy and close connection and application with the lead lab groups.
Fantastic. Thanks, Andrea. We'll come back to the other questions after we've had a little bit of a chat with Sam and then tried out one of the tools. So I would like to introduce Sambridgman from New Zealand Post. As I said before, he is a past participant. He's also New Zealand Post's Senior Environmental Specialist, and I believe you're on the program in 2018, Sam. Welcome.
Yep. Hi, thanks.
Hi, how are you doing? We've got a few questions for you about your experience of the program that might bring it to life a little bit. So I wondered if you could tell us what sustainability challenge you brought to the program and how did the program support you to tackle that?
Yeah, sure. So the program occurred at quite a good time for me personally, and the challenges we were facing at Post, where we just agreed at the time, things have moved on a lot, a very ambitious goal to be carbon neutral from 2030 and to reduce emissions quite significantly through to that time. But that's all that had been agreed, and so I had to go away and figure out and get buy-in across the business around what we were going to do, how we were going to do it, where we were going to spend the money, and the processes, governance and structure that we needed to put in place for that. And it really required me to come up with a roadmap that the executive leadership team would sign off. And given it was all quite a new topic and thinking for them, it was quite a challenge at the time. So really bringing a big problem like that at the beginning of the course meant that we could, meant that I could start working on it at the course. And really what I found is that as the challenge progressed, because obviously the course is over quite a number of months, but as the thinking and the barriers were gotten over at our work, you know, new ones would emerge, and I would just bring those to the course. So it allowed, you know, because we could work on it during the course, allowed it to evolve it over time as well, and help accelerate it.
Great, thanks, Sam. I'm conscious we want to leave time for people to have a bit of interaction, so I might just ask you one more question, and we're going to have you stay on for the Q&A a bit later so people can pick your brains a little bit more about your experience then. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the benefits of the program to post to your organisation as well, and how the program supported you in that way.
Yeah, so the first thing I'd say is I did the 360-degree feedback, which was optional. And that was a really, really good benchmark and kind of foundation to enter the course with. So I'd really recommend that again. It just gave me very good self-awareness and a personal benchmark on which to enter the course with. What I found is that the course used a number of tools and techniques, and what I really learned is to follow those tools and techniques to the letter and trust the process, because at first you read them and you're a bit worried, but actually the end result's very good. But I think it helped us because I was able to bring specific challenges to a group of people that were very engaged in trying to help me because of the way the course is structured, because it would help them as well in terms of their own learning. And that meant almost that we had a lot of group think happening in a very structured way, in a way that I could then take back to the business and apply. And because we were with these leader labs, I was, you know, we started to learn a lot more about each other's organisations and the challenges they were facing, and we were able to keep working on each other's challenges and our own challenges throughout that whole process. So there was a real familiarity. Yeah, it was really nice to bring my own problem and work on that rather than coming up with a artificial kind of problem with course participants. We would have to go away and make up something and do a presentation on. You know, it was really good to bring our own real world problem that we're working on day to day, and get some help with it.
Fantastic, Sam. You've really brought it to life for us. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you staying on to take questions a little bit later as well.
Yeah, so I'm happy to help with any other specific questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Andrea, are you happy to take a couple more questions now, or would you prefer to go into we've just got a few good ones coming through, so we're going to flex a little bit. We've got a question around incorporating Te Ao Māori into the course. Do you want to talk us through how that turns out?
Yeah, fantastic. So in the first workshop, we look at different perspectives of sustainability, and we include Te Ao Māori perspectives, the holistic model, and I think that's a really grounding principle of the entire program.
Yeah, I think it's kind of weaved through everything from my experience too. And could we also talk about whether there is more opportunities to connect outside of the leader lab? Someone's asking here, do we get the broader opportunity to expand our connections to the wider group? Because it would feel like a bit of a loss if it was just leader labs.
Yeah, definitely. And I could be clearer about that. So when we do the large group sessions, the breakout groups, we form you into different breakout groups every time. And so you work with a different group of 4, a different group of 5, a different group of 6. And so the intention is, throughout the course of the whole program, you've been able to do real group work with everyone across the program. And plus, we'll probably do something like at a minimum, we'll set up a LinkedIn group for the whole cohort, and probably a WhatsApp group for the whole cohort too, because I think there's so much rich value across all your different functions. And our whole vision for the program is really a thriving Aotearoa. So whatever we can do to facilitate connections across, we're very keen.
Question from Glenn on case studies of organisations across the spectrum whose leaders have created sustainability and environmental outcomes as a focus, which has growth talent and exceeded return expectations as byproducts. What a meaty question. I like it.
We don't use the method of case study teaching. We really use your own case studies and learning from one another. But part of the research will reference different case studies. So you'll have access to resources on different companies like Unilever as a classic, but we actually really like working with your real challenges. You become the case. So it's more kind of relevant than reading about something where you might go, well, we're not a multinational and we're not a this. How would that fit my context?
And one last question, we'll come back to others after we've had a little bit of interaction. Could we just clarify again, will the course build capability and sustainability strategies to improve environmental outcomes for organisations, or just how to lead these projects?
So we'll actually teach you how to create a sustainability strategy through the program. So yeah, we build
Both
capability
and.
developing. Yeah.
Nice, that's cool. Thanks everyone. Keep your questions coming. We'll come back to more at the end. I'm going to hand over to you, Andrea, to talk us through the breakout rooms.
We thought we'd give you a little taster of a model that we use in the program. And what I'll do is I'll give a helicopter view of the model, and then in breakout groups, nothing too intense because you might not have met each other yet. You can just have a chat, what comes up for you about that model, how might it apply to you and your organisation. So the model that we've chosen to go through today is what we call the roller coaster, because life is like a roller coaster, and last year showed us that probably more than many years before. And leadership is a roller coaster, and leading your organisation to a more thriving, sustainable future is very much a roller coaster ride. So what are the different aspects of the roller coaster ride? Well, we say over here on the left, leadership is in part the art of framing great questions. So how might you turn your sustainability challenge into a question that invites curiosity and interest and engages others? And then you need to get yourself and others aboard the roller coaster. And so this is, how do you invite others in, stakeholders who perhaps have different perspectives around an issue, inside or outside your organisation, and have them get together ready to go on a ride into the unknown. And as humans start going from the known into the unknown, we start to have a range of emotions. It's common to start feeling a bit anxious. We don't like the out of control. There's an uncertainty there. It can feel quite chaotic, sometimes exciting, depending on not if you're in the driver's seat. And so sometimes it's common for humans to flatline, to avoid going into the unknown and to go back to how we've always done things. So this is where we find organisations taking last year's strategy, dusting it off and saying, well, let's just do that again. And there's a failure to execute and a failure to really engage in breakthrough thinking. So how do we take others on this journey into the unknown and have this, what we call a creative breakdown, where we start challenging old mental models, old patterns, old structures, old ways of doing things, and start experimenting together. Maybe leadership can be the art of crafting experiments into a new future. And then we can actually reach a breakthrough. And so what we'd like you to do in your breakout groups, and we'll set you off in groups of about 3 or 4. And if you could take a photo of this, if you've got a camera handy, because these instructions can then carry through to you into the breakout group. If you could choose a facilitator, someone say, I'm happy to facilitate, quick introductions of each other, and then use the model. Where are you on your roller coaster with regard to making progress on sustainability? Or where's your organisation? And what would help you accelerate progress? You can think of it as, how do we meet people where they are and help carry them along? So Jay's going to send you off, and we'll see you back in 10 minutes.
Kia ora. Thanks, Andrea. You'll now disappear into your breakout rooms. Welcome back, everyone. Great to see you again. I hope you enjoyed your breakout room experience, got the opportunity to connect with others and hear where they're at in their journeys. We're going to take final questions now before we talk about how you can apply to the program, how you can find out more information. We had a couple of questions from before that we didn't get to, but if you've got more that you'd like to know about, feel free to place it in chat. If we don't get through everything, we can always communicate via email. There are a couple we didn't touch on before, Andrea, which was, I don't think we touched on keeping the confidentiality within the course and how we create that sort of environment.
Yeah, that's super important. So a couple of things. We ask of people that they maintain confidence, but also we ask of you to be take care with what you reveal to others, knowing that we can't promise other people's confidentiality. But one of the key grounding principles in your lead lab work, which is where you really do a lot of the here's my real situation revealing, is that a strong code of confidentiality.
Nice one. Yeah, and it's something we're quite well versed at doing across SBC as well, because we have such a diverse membership. We've quite it's important to create that container so people feel they can share freely. We've got a question from Shiraz on if you're a comms professional, how would this help you with your work in developing a comms and engagement strategy? I'm happy to kick off on that one. Andrea, if that's all right. I had that experience when it was my year of doing the program. I had a number of comms, branding and marketing professionals, and the challenges that they brought were around developing a strategy that embedded sustainability across all of their messaging. So that was the area that they wanted to work on, and there's a good component of the program that talks a lot about storytelling and communication and working across an organization to share sustainability messages. So that's how it turned up in my year. Andrea, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, last year we had a few different communications professionals, and really it's a role around influencing, isn't it? You know, what are the messages for what audiences? So I think the program is really applicable for people in those roles.
Nice.
Awesome. Good to know. Thank you, Bob.
And Sam, you wanted to chip in about how it's relevant to different areas. Would you like to?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was just going to address that question and some others. I mean, on my year group, we had consultants, we had brand people, we had someone from a finance part of a large organisation, and each of them brought their own unique challenge, and it did relate to sustainability. But what was great is that the tools and methods and discussions that we had were relevant for all of those issues because of that common link around sustainability. And even though it's quite a wide term, there are some commonalities, regardless of whether it's influencing or financing or branding or strategy. And it also meant that when we were, as part of the exercising, helping them, that we learned a lot as well, because the one thing I would say is that we certainly, well, I took our course is how to really unpick a problem and really get to the heart of it, especially with sustainability problems. And once you've done that, how to address it. And so having that multidisciplinary viewpoint from those people was really beneficial.
Thanks, Sam. That's a really helpful lived insight. We've got a question from Miranda about how the leader labs are structured, and funnily enough, it is similar to what you were talking about before, Miranda, which is they are structured around SDGs, so common sustainable development goals that participants are working on, and we do spend quite a lot of time crafting what the leader labs look like. I think they worked quite well last year, Andrea.
Very well, yeah, incredibly well. In fact, it's one of the most highly evaluated features of the program is the diversity, but also commonality of those groups. Yeah. And I think we've said it, but you identify a challenge coming in, but it really can evolve, and mainly does, because people come in thinking one frame of the challenge and go, wow, actually, there's a lot more involved here. So as long as you've got an area of focus and you can relate it to a sustainable development goal, that's what you need to be able to apply. And it is an application, it's not a registration. So we do go through them to make sure that we curate a cohort of people who are appropriate for the program and that it's a really good fit for you.
Absolutely. That's great. If there are any final questions, please pop them through now. I might put Sam on the spot and see if he wants to have any final remarks as a past participant.
Well, I just had my final say, I thought.
Did you? Oh, nice.
No, it was, yeah, obviously, I was a fan. That's why I'm here speaking about it. But if people want to contact me direct, I'm happy to have a chat.
Thank you, Sam. That's wonderful. And over to you. Over to the next slide, I think, Andrea.
Great. So how do you apply? Here we go. So early bird discount, don't miss out on that. It's quite substantial. By 26th of February, applications closed 31st of March. There are discounts available if your organisation is an SPC member. And Jay, I think, is going to put the link to apply in the chat. And if you've got colleagues in Auckland, there's a lunchtime taster session that we're running on the 2nd of March. So you might want to let them know about that, but also let them know about the early bird discount, which is before that. So I think we're going to keep that open for 3 days just for those people who attend that taster. So there we go. Hopefully, any questions about how to apply?
No, I don't see any there. So the links are in the chat and we'll circulate them after the taster session.
Cool.
So.
And so we will send you out an email saying thanks for coming, and that can be a channel for asking further questions, or if your question wasn't resolved for you, there's a channel to communicate with us, come back to us and ask any questions that you'd like. So we'd love to see you on the program or people from your organisation, and thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you for your shared commitment to creating a thriving Aotearoa. It's awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers. Thanks, Sam, too.
Kia ora, thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
Kia ora. Thanks so much.